Hi, I'm Carolyn, and I have tried a lot to get like YouTube famous, and obviously that's not worked because you probably don't know who I am if you're not a personal friend of mine. I'm not even sure why you're watching this video if you're not a personal friend of mine. But basically, I'm gonna stop all that and I'm just gonna start telling stories just to document some of my life, I guess, because I have a lot of stories to tell, and that is proven because I Uber all the time because I can't drive. I'm partially blind. And yeah, people are probably like amazed by how much I can talk, and talking is one of the things I'm good at. So, yeah. I am going to start off with one of my favorite stories that happened to me when I was, I think, 13 or 14. I'm not sure exactly when. I have a horrible memory when it comes to age. I literally judge how old I was by where I lived at the time. Because I've lived in 9 different states, and that's not even including like moves within states. So, first time I went to Asia, I went to both Japan and China with my mom and dad. And I was about 13. We went to Japan first, and we stopped off in Tokyo. And I remember right off the plane, we were so jet lagged and tired, we just said, to hell with it. And we went to an Italian restaurant, which honestly, Japan's not like the Italian restaurants here. But, it was something at least a little bit familiar to us. And yeah, so one of the greatest things about Japan was we went on this like little bus tour thingy, and we stopped at Mount Fuji, which is really cool. We went to see this kabuki. Oh, in Mount Fuji, there was like this egg thingy that was boiled in volcanic ash, I think it was. And I ate it. It was all black, and I still ate it because I'm weird like that. And then we went to this kabuki theater, which is really cool. It was so cool seeing the kabuki play. It was the 12th night, but in like Japanese version with samurai and stuff. And there were actual geisha there, like real honest to God geisha. I don't think they're like geisha, but they were dressed up like them, and it was so cool. I got to see that, and they had this like translator thingy. It was this kind of the headphones with a tape, and it would translate what was going on, and then they explained about people like randomly yelling out, and then the actors would freeze. It was really cool. And now this was the first time I went to Japan. I actually went to Japan 3 times. First time I was with my mom and dad, obviously. Second time I went with actual like a family who lived in Japan. Well, I didn't go with them, but I went and lived with them. And I think that's really all. Oh, pandas. We went to the zoo and saw pandas and porcupines that climbed trees and beautiful lilies. That's really all I remember about Japan, other than grabbing like a bunch of manga that I could not read just to say I had actual Japanese manga. And that's the first place I found Death Note, which had not come out in the US yet. It was not translated in the US, and it was really cool. I was like, this is awesome. Look at these like monsters. I wonder what it's about. Later on, I found out. But yeah, well, that's a time for another story. But then we went to China, and it was because my dad was manager at a business that had like a Chinese firm partner or something like that, and he was going for a business meeting. So me and my mom would go and do a bunch of stuff and with him, and his associate there was Mr. Meow. That's honestly all I remember about that man other than his name, because it was like, oh, he's a cat. I do remember he was driving us around, and I saw a guy on a bike get hit by a car, like a bicycle get hit by a car, and I was like, and apparently that was very common back then. But one of the coolest stories I have from that is I was 13, and my parents now and then would let me drink. It wasn't that big of a deal, and not like drink. They would maybe let me have a glass of wine, or let me have a sip of their martini or whatever they were drinking. And China has no legal drinking age, or at least it didn't then. I'm not sure about now. So we were at this banquet put on by the company that my dad worked with, and when I say banquet, I mean banquet. I had a glass of white wine, and we were eating all sorts of weird stuff, like duck tongues. The two I remember are duck tongues, which were actually pretty good. I liked duck tongues. And the one I hated the most, Buddha jumps over the wall soup, I think it's called, or Buddha jumping over the wall soup, or something like that, which is, I believe, a form of shark fin soup, which can be pretty expensive, apparently. And that was disgusting. But then again, I'm kind of biased. I don't like seafood, so meh. I had a glass of wine, and I was drinking, and every time they would say something, you would have to like guzzle your drink or something like that. And unbeknownst to my parents, I was playing along with this game, and the waiter kept on coming and filling my wine back up, so it looked like I wasn't drinking anything. And the end of the dinner, I got up and I just kind of wobbled. And my parents were like, oh god, she's drunk. And they had to bring me back to the hotel, which we were in like the Continental Suite or something. It was really cool. And I remember waking up with a hangover. Yep. 13-year-old girl, hangover. Not a fun. That was the day that we went to, I believe, the Forbidden City, and I just did not want to go. I was like, no. So I ended up like just staying where I was. One of the cool things we did is we went to the Great Wall, and we climbed up one of the segments. I remember I was the first one up and the first one down. Those stairs are really uneven at some points. It was like climbing a ladder. It was kind of scary. But then we also went and saw the stone boat, which was, I believe, a gift for a princess who was terrified of the water or something. And also we went to this rock garden, which was really cool. We were like walking around the rock garden. They had this little photo station, which is very touristy, but that's okay. And you could dress up in this like really fancy Chinese garb with a headpiece that was like hair, and it was crazy. My mom and I did it. It was really stupid, but we looked kind of cool. Yeah, and we had a great time. I remember, I think at some point I grabbed a Coke that had a Chinese pop star printed on the thing, and maybe that was in Japan, but I remember I had it and I washed it out, and for some god-awful reason I had that when I went to boarding school in high school. I know, it was stupid. So yeah, trip to China, trip to Japan. I'll tell you about my later trips to Japan in another video, but that was my trip to Asia. I would love to go back again. I love going abroad. I think I am a little hesitant about going because of my eye now, and I can't see that well in general, so in a foreign country that would be ridiculous. Maybe if I had someone with me, I would be terrified to go alone. But yeah, I love trying new food. I would love to try some of the street foods. I have eaten bugs. If you kept an eye on my channel, you'll see I've eaten bugs. I've eaten some really weird stuff in my life. Another add-on story to this, I'm not sure where it was, if Japan or China, but my dad had this thing called dancing shrimp or something, and they basically brought out a bowl of live shrimp. I wasn't here for this. This is a story my dad relayed to me. They basically brought out a bowl of live shrimp, poured a bunch of alcohol on it, and slammed the lid down and watched the shrimp grow crazy, and they just drowned in alcohol. And then they served them without cooking them or anything. They just served them like that. And he got a shrimp on his plate. It was just still twitching. And you can see like all the white people going a little bit green. And I'm like, yeah, sounds right. That would just, yeah. But okay. So that is my story. And I will see you guys at a later date for another story. Bye.